I'm Carl Turner reporting for Pixels and Pills from CBI's Social Media Tools Conference, and I have here with me Melissa Davies. Melissa made the opening address today, and it was a very good address that she made, a very great presentation, so I wanted to have her speak a little bit about her company, Return on Focus, and her role there, and also a few of the things that she spoke about at the conference. Thanks for agreeing to speak with me.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, so could you just tell us a little bit about your role at Return on Focus and what Return on Focus is?
Sure, I'm the social media practice lead at Return on Focus. So clients have been asking more and more questions about social media in healthcare. Obviously, it's a huge issue for the whole industry, and so we're building out a practice that's focused specifically on social media. Return on Focus is a pretty small consulting company, work exclusively with pharma clients, and the company's built around the notion of evidence-based marketing. So making your marketing decisions based on actual evidence about what's going to work in terms of reaching your patients.
Okay, and a lot of what you presented today seemed like it was based on analyses that you had done on social media in different disease states, different topic areas. One of the more interesting findings was this finding about trust in social media and whether you trust social media or not, and you broke that down by age in one of the charts that you showed, and I thought that was really interesting. Obviously, the younger people are a little bit more trusting of social media than the older people, but in your mind, what are the other factors that influence trust in terms of social media?
I think one of the biggest things is the ability to talk to other patients like you. You know, if you get a diagnosis, you're looking for information, your doctor can give you great information, but one, the doctor's not available 24/7, and two, the doctor probably doesn't have that condition. So when you start to realize you want to know more about the symptoms, or is it normal to experience this, or you just need emotional support, finding other patients who have gone through that same experience, kind of walk that path before you, I think really drives a high level of trust in that information. And then as people form those bonds in that online community, get to know other people, the more they know the community, the more they trust the community. It kind of grows from there.
Okay, and what about the breadth of information? Because I was wondering while I was listening to your presentation whether the breadth of information that's out there for a particular disease state influences whether people would actually trust in it or not. So for instance, cystic fibrosis. There's a lot of information out there. There are a lot of social media places and a lot of blogs, a lot of discussion boards, and places where you can find social media related to cystic fibrosis. So do you think that influence, the breadth of information that's out there influences the degree to which people actually trust in the social media that's out there for a particular disease state?
I think finding that information online certainly keeps people online. You know, you go online and do a search and you can find hundreds of resources that keeps you there and keeps you looking, and within your search you're likely to find some social media content even on the first or second page of your search. So as you're going through the third-party documented professionally written resources and then also finding mixed in with those social media or other user-generated content, seeing those placed together in a search hierarchy will kind of give you that sense of those two things weaving together, kind of a mingled trust. You know what I mean?
Okay, and you also showed a little bit about your social media engagement index. Can you talk a little bit about that and your findings related to that index?
Yeah, that's research I've wanted to do for a long time, and finally wanted to take a look at the volume of conversation in social media about each disease state and then compare that against the prevalence or the number of people who are living with the condition. So, and then to make an index out of it just gives you, the great thing about that is it's an anchor point or a way to kind of understand how one disease state compares to another. So you might think, well, there's probably a lot of social media about breast cancer, and there is, but then how does that compare to prostate cancer or lung cancer? That's really the interesting thing, is creating that index and then being able to compare. There were some real surprises for me in that index too. The low level of engagement for diabetes was a surprise, and the high level of engagement for things like Alzheimer's disease and for cystic fibrosis was surprising to me.
Okay. Also, in your presentation, I noticed that you had the quantitative piece, so you showed things like your index, but you also had this great qualitative piece where you showed what certain patients were saying and analyzed the meaning behind that. Can you talk a little bit about the importance, and this is kind of an interest of mine, the difference between social media monitoring and social media analysis, because it seems like there is a difference there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the analysis, in my opinion, is really where it's at, and that's something that my company really preaches. To understand the volume of discussion around your brand is great, but if there are 100 messages about your brand, is that good? Is that high? Is that low? How does that compare to other brands? And then what are they saying? If there are 100 messages about your brand, are they positive messages? Are they negative messages? So that analysis that you're talking about is really where you get the understanding. I always find that the qualitative side, the quotes from actual patients in the online community is what really brings social media analysis to life for clients. I think that's, we can cite numbers all day long, but I think seeing that qualitative side is where people really understand what's going on there.
Okay, and lastly, you kind of ended your presentation by saying social media isn't a strategy. So I'd just like to get you to talk a little bit about what you mean when you say that.
Sure. Well, I think if your mindset is, well, let's be on Facebook just to be on Facebook, that's not. I think it'll come through to patients that you're not there with a purpose that that really is sort of looking at the long run. So if you're thinking about short-term gain, yeah, get on Facebook, get on Twitter. But if you're thinking about the long term, you want to connect with patients and start a conversation with them. They don't want you to start the conversation and then walk away. They're going to want you to start the conversation and then continue. So considering social media as a tool to reach the people who are already talking about your brand, talking about your disease state, I think that's a way to look at it to help you plan that long-range approach that'll really help give your patients the best value.
Great. Thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Carl Turner reporting for Pixels and Pills from CBI's Social Media Tools Conference.